Smoke drifted slow and steady over the prairie, caught in the morning stillness. The wagon sat tilted, one wheel split and burned black, its canvas cover long gone, and its frame hollow by fire. Nearby, pieces of charred wood and fabric fluttered in the breeze like the ashes of some forgotten dream. The ground was disturbed, prints overlapping, some booted, some bare, and a long streak where something heavy had been dragged. A child's bonnet lay crumpled near the broken axle, dirted and singed. The silence was loud here. Samuel Cade dismounted with stiff legs and looked over the ruin. He didn't know what he expected when he followed the smoke from the ridge. Maybe a rancher's mistake, maybe some trail accident. He hadn't expected the stillness, and he sure hadn't expected the baby. Not until he heard the faintest, ragged cry and spotted the smallest motion beside the wreck. A little bundle of soot and skin, wrapped in a half-burned blanket, barely bigger than a saddlebag. The baby lay on its side, one arm free, hand curled in the dust. Samuel knelt slow, boots crunching the dry ground. His shadow fell across the child. That's when it happened. The baby's hand opened and reached, tiny fingers stretching out, trembling, toward him. He didn't think. He picked the child up, heart thudding. The baby was warm, surprisingly alive. His hand dwarfed the infant's body, but the child made no fuss. Just leaned into his chest and let out a long, hitching breath like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole short life. Samuel looked around again, eyes narrowing. Someone had run, or been chased. The wagon had burned not long ago. The fire still smoldered in places. He carried the child back toward his horse, swaddling it tighter in a clean shirt from his bedroll. The little thing barely moved, but its fingers kept grasping every so often, as if checking he was still there. Samuel didn't know babies. He'd never been close to one, not since his sister lost hers before she could hold it. But something about this one made his gut twist hard. Not just from the smoke or the way the wagon looked, but from the fact that this child should have died out here and didn't. He checked the area again, moving slow, deliberate. The brush nearby was broken. Blood marked a patch of grass. Not animal. Too high. Someone had been hurt, maybe more than one. He spotted a trail, faint but going west. It wasn't done by cowhands or hunters. These were fast, panic prints. Barefoot in some spots. A woman, maybe, two different sizes. Children? He couldn't be sure, but his chest tightened anyway. It had been nearly a month since he left Wyoming territory behind. He hadn't meant to stay long anywhere after Helena. Too many people, too many questions. But now, with his child in his arms and a trail of blood heading west, something locked in a place inside him. This wasn't a rescue. Not yet. It wasn't a mission, but it was something, and Samuel had learned long ago that the things you walked away from sometimes found a way back to you. Uglier, louder, and twice as painful. The baby stirred again. Samuel looked down and saw soot streaked across its tiny cheek. A boy, he guessed. Couldn't be more than 6 months. Skin tanned from travel, or maybe mixed heritage. He didn't care. But someone had left him here, or died trying to protect him. That's what it felt like. Samuel could smell it. That raw scent of violence just passed, blood and smoke and panic. He mounted up and rode slow, letting the horse pick its own careful way through the brush. He followed the broken trail west, holding the baby close. As the sun rose behind them, he could feel the land waking up. A hawk called above. Dust kicked up from the hooves. And in the back of his mind, that old voice, the one he tried to bury under silence and sweat, whispered, "Don't get involved." Not again, but he already had. He remembered when he was a boy, maybe 8 or 9, and his father told him, if you see something dying and you look away, you better hope it don't see you back. He hadn't understood then. Now it haunted him. The baby's hand had found his. That was enough. A few miles in, he came across a narrow ravine. There, down low and half hidden in the rocks, he saw the first clear sign of a body. It was a man face down, arms splayed. Flies circled. The blood was dry, Shot from behind. No badge, no mark. Could have been one of the travelers or one of the men who caused this. Samuel didn't linger. He checked for tracks. More prints moved north, sharper now, faster. Like someone running while being watched. He kept going, head down, baby tucked tight to his chest. The air was dry. His lips cracked. He hadn't eaten since sunup, but he didn't care. He stopped by a creek after another hour and let the horse drink. The baby stirred again, letting out a broken whimper. Samuel gave him some water on his finger. Not much else he could do. The baby took it like he hadn't tasted anything in hours. He didn't cry. Not really. Just let out little grunts, eyes half-lidded. Samuel stared down at him and muttered, "Where's your ma, boy?" The baby blinked, then reached again, this time for his shirt. Samuel looked away. By nightfall, he reached a ridge where he could see down into a narrow valley. The moonlight made the grass silver. He spotted another wagon, not burned, but overturned near a crooked cottonwood tree. No fire, no movement. He tied the horse and approached on foot. He had the rifle ready, though he hated the feel of it. His boots made no sound. A shadow moved behind the tree. He stopped, waited. Then a voice, low, broken, called out, "Is someone there?" Samuel stepped forward. "I ain't here to hurt you." Another pause. Then the shadow straightened and stepped into the moonlight. A woman, barefoot, bleeding from the arm. Her dress was torn, dirt streaked her legs, and her face looked like it hadn't rested in days. Behind her, clinging to her skirt, was a boy about 3 years old. The woman's eyes went straight to the baby in his arms. She stumbled, then fell to her knees. Her voice cracked. "Is he?" "He's alive," Samuel said. "Barely." She sobbed once, but quiet. She didn't run forward, didn't beg, just knelt there, arms limp, and looked at her baby like seeing a ghost. Samuel crouched and handed him over. The baby made a weak sound and pressed against her. She cradled him with shaking hands. The boy crowded around her, silent. "I thought they killed him," she whispered. "I thought." She broke off and buried her face in the baby's neck. Samuel watched, jaw tight. Who did this? The woman didn't answer right away. She kissed her baby's head and rocked him gently. Finally, she looked up. Her face was hard now. Hollow. She didn't cry again. "They wore badges," she said, "but they weren't law." Samuel felt something in his gut pull tight. He didn't ask more. Not yet. He looked at the boy, then back at her. "You got a name?" "Julie," she said. "Julie Nash. These are mine. Ethan and Tomas." He nodded once. "I'm Samuel Cade." They didn't shake hands. There was no need. The wind picked up. Somewhere far off, a coyote howled. Samuel looked out across the prairie, then back at Julie. "Rest while you can," he said. "They might come back." Julie didn't flinch. "If they do," she said, "I'll bury them myself." And Samuel believed her. They moved slow the next morning, packing what they could from the second wagon, which hadn't burned but was mostly torn apart. Samuel helped Julie wrap the baby tighter, since the morning wind cut sharp through the cottonwood grove. She didn't talk much, not unless he asked her something, but she was clear-headed, focused, the kind of woman who'd stopped crying years ago, and not because life had gotten easier. Ethan, the little boy, wouldn't leave his mother's side, not even to drink water. He had dark eyes like his mother's, wide and watching. Samuel didn't take it personal. A boy who'd seen that much fire and blood wasn't supposed to trust easy. As they made camp by a creek that night, Julie finally said more. "There were 5 of them," she said without looking at him. She was rubbing something into Ethan's bruised shoulder, maybe lard, maybe a piece of leftover salve she'd scrounged from her wagon. 3 in uniform, 2 behind, waiting with ropes. Samuel didn't interrupt, just waited. "They stopped us 3 days ago," she went on, voice low and flat. "Said they were with the Southern Overland. Asked where we were headed. I told them Utah, that my husband had died last fall, and I was going to family." She stopped rubbing. Her hand trembled. "They knew we had no men with us. I think they knew before they even asked. They said our papers were false. Took my satchel, dumped everything. They were looking for silver or gold, but we didn't have any. Samuel let the silence settle. Then, what happened after? Julie stared into the fire. They shot my horse, pulled the canvas from the wagon. When they didn't find anything, one of them hit Ethan. Her voice cracked once. Said we were lying, that the baby wasn't mine, that we'd stolen him. Samuel felt something shift behind his ribs. And your husband? He's buried in Missouri, she said simply. Caught fever just before harvest. We left in winter, waited it out in Nebraska, and crossed into the high plains a week ago. He's not part of this. Your name? Nash, that is? No, she said after a pause. Mine. He nodded once. Later that night, Samuel sat by the fire after the others had fallen asleep. Ethan curled into Julie's side, while the baby lay in her arms. Samuel passed him a piece of dried apple. The boy took it without a word. You protect your family? Samuel asked quietly. Ethan didn't look at him, just nodded once, sharp and fast. You did good. The boy didn't answer, but a slight tremor passed through his shoulders. Samuel didn't press it. He knew what fear did to a boy, how it carved things deep where no one else could see. He turned his eyes toward the fire. A sound drifted in from the trees, hoofbeats, faint and distant. He froze. Ethan noticed too. Samuel rose, walked to the edge of the grove, and listened. A second set of hoofs. Then quiet. The sound faded east. They were being followed. He didn't wake Julie. Not yet. But when he came back to the fire, he didn't sit. He stayed on his feet till morning. 2 days later, they crossed paths with a stranger. She was older, wrapped in layers of wool and canvas, seated on a cart pulled by 2 skinny mules. She called herself Miss Hattie Rollins and said she ran a way station out by Mill Creek, a wide, flat place with a roof, some firewood, and a hand-dug well. Don't offer rooms no more, she said, looking Julie over. But I don't shut my door to mothers, neither. Julie didn't want to stop. Samuel saw it in her face, the way her eyes stayed hard and narrow. But her limp had gotten worse, and the baby was crying more. Hattie offered them boiled potatoes and goat's milk, and that was enough for the night. Inside the small, leaning house, Samuel noticed how quiet Julie was. Not cold, just measured, like she was counting everything in the room. Knives, windows, exits. He admired it. She wasn't soft. Whatever had happened on the trail hadn't broken her, just made her sharper. But there was something else too, something beneath all that steel. When Ethan spilled a tin cup of milk and started to cry, Julie didn't scold him. She reached out and wiped the boy's cheek, whispering something low. Her hands trembled just for a second, then steadied again. Later, as Hattie put the children down with thick quilts in the corner, Samuel and Julie stood outside under the stars. You think they'll come here? She asked, eyes scanning the dark horizon. They might, he said, but I'll know before they do. She didn't thank him, just nodded, as if it was expected. Then she asked, why are you helping us? He hesitated. I saw the baby's hand reach for mine, he said after a while. Didn't feel like something you walk away from. She was quiet for a time. Then she said, men like that don't leave loose ends. I know, and you've got nothing to do with this. You don't even know us. He turned her then, voice low. No, but I've known men like that, and I've seen what happens when nobody stops them. She didn't say anything after that. Just walked back inside. The next morning, Hattie gave him some dry bread and 3 strips of smoked meat, wrapped in cloth. As they left, she said to Julie, you've got something strong in you. I hope he knows that. Julie only nodded. Out on the trail, Samuel kept checking behind them. The tracks were still there. Another horse had joined the first 2. By dusk, they found a shallow cave in the side of a bluff. Julie carried the baby inside and laid him down, humming something under her breath. Ethan was asleep quickly. He sat next to Samuel by the fire again. Are they going to kill us? The boy asked plainly. Samuel didn't lie. Not if I have anything to say about it. Are you good with a gun? I used to be. The boy looked at him. Did you kill people before? Samuel didn't answer right away. Yes. Were they bad? Samuel poked the fire. Some were. Some were just in the wrong place. Ethan nodded, like that made sense to him. which was the saddest part of it. The next few days passed in a rhythm. They rode early, camped hidden, watched the wind. Samuel never said it, but he could feel something drawing closer behind them, like a storm coming slow. Julie spoke more as they went, about the way her husband had built their small house with pine logs, how she taught Ethan to read using scraps of newspaper, how Ethan used to wake crying after loud thunder, but never told her why. "He's seen too much," she said one night, voice low. "I think he blames me for it." Samuel didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "He doesn't blame you. He's just scared." Julie looked at him. "So am I." They shared no fire that night, just the dark and the wind and the nearness of breath. Then came the day they reached a wide, broken arroyo. A small town sat to the south, Red Mesa, 2 streets, a feed store, a chapel, and a telegraph pole leaning sideways. Samuel stopped them at the top of the hill and looked down. "If they're lawmen, they might be in town already," he said. "They're not law," Julie said again. "I know, but it'll still be their word against yours. I don't want to run anymore." He looked at her. Her face was dirt-streaked, lips chapped, and yet she stood straight, unflinching. "If we go into town," he said, "there's no more hiding. I'm done hiding." He stared down at the baby in her arms. The boy had grown louder these past few days, stronger. He liked the sound of Julie's voice and would reach for Ethan whenever he came near. Samuel wasn't sure when exactly he stopped thinking of the boy as just a burden. Maybe it was when the baby grabbed his thumb again the third night, or when Julie said, "He smiles in his sleep." He realized then he didn't want to leave them. Not now, not even when this was over. As they walked into Red Mesa, Julie's shoulders didn't bend. Ethan walked beside Samuel now, and the baby looked up into the sun and blinked. Something in Samuel's chest cracked wide. They weren't out of danger, but they were walking into the heart of it together. And that mattered, because sometimes it's not about where you go, it's about who you carry with you. Red Mesa was too quiet when they arrived. The sun hung high, casting sharp shadows across the dusty streets. A few townsfolk glanced up as they passed, a man hammering a ginzia of board back onto the general store, a woman sweeping her porch, a kid chasing a stray dog. But there was a stiffness in the air, like everyone was waiting for something they didn't want to name. Samuel felt it before Julie did. His eyes swept the rooftops, the alley between the smithy and the saloon, the man leaning just a little too long on a post outside the livery. Something didn't sit right. They passed the sheriff's office, door open, no one inside. It wasn't a lawless town, but it was acting like one. He kept Julie and the kids close, leading them into the only place that looked safe enough, a chapel with peeled paint and a rusted bell. The preacher, a thin black man named Elias Holt, greeted them with tired eyes and a cautious nod. "Don't see many new faces this time of year," he said, glancing down at the baby. "Y'all looking for shelter or the truth?" "Just a safe room," Samuel said. Elias opened the back and let them in. "Rest for now. You'll need it." They laid low for 2 hours. Samuel went to the well, got water. Elias gave the children some cornbread. Julie cleaned her arm by herself, refusing help. The baby finally fell asleep on a folded blanket, hand curled tight into a fist. That was the only quiet moment they had before the betrayal came. Just after midday, Samuel left to speak with the general store owner about supplies. Elias walked with him a few blocks, then turned back. The store was empty except for the owner and a clerk. The man behind the counter barely looked up. When Samuel asked about buying flour and dried beans, the man said they were short on stock, and his tone was sharp. "We've had visitors ahead of you," he said, finally looking Samuel in the eye. Asked about a woman with 2 children. So they were family. Asked real polite. Samuel froze. "Did they give names?" "Didn't have to," the man said. "They had badges." Samuel swallowed the rising heat in his chest. "Did they say where they were headed?" "They said they'd be back." He left without buying anything. Heart pounding, he walked fast back toward the chapel and stopped cold. The chapel door was open. Inside, Elias stood near the altar, hands up. Julie was backed into the corner, Ethan and Tomas behind her. One of the badge-wearing men stood in the aisle. Not the kind Samuel had hoped for. Not a lawman. A hunter, ex-army maybe, cold eyes, dry voice. "I told you I'd find you," he said, looking at Julie. "Didn't expect you to be hiding in God's house." Shame. Samuel stepped inside slow, rifle down but ready. The man didn't flinch. "Put it down," he told Samuel. "You've got no part in this." Samuel didn't move. The man continued. "This woman's wanted for theft. Her husband took government property. She ran with it. That baby, that's not hers. We've got a warrant." Julie's face had gone pale. "That's a lie. Tell it to the judge," the man said. But something about his words didn't match. There was no paperwork, no backup, just his hand close to his belt and a practiced ease in his threats. Samuel saw it in Elias's face too. The preacher didn't believe a word of it, but he stayed still, watching. "Where's your proof?" Samuel asked quietly. The man smiled. "Don't need any. You got it crying in that corner." He took a step toward Julie. Samuel raised the rifle. "Don't." It all happened fast after that. The man reached for his gun. Samuel fired first. The shot echoed inside the small church like thunder. The man dropped, dead before he hit the floor. Julie rushed forward, shielding the kids. Elias stepped back, staring wide-eyed at the blood, now soaking the floorboards. "They're not working alone," Samuel said quickly. "More will come." "We need to leave," Julie breathed, eyes wide with panic. Elias finally moved, hands trembling. "There's a path through the backfields. Fewer eyes. I'll show you." They moved quick. Elias led them through a low fence and into the tall grass behind the chapel. He handed them a small satchel with dried fruit and a canteen. "Keep to the north side," he said. "Ride hard. Don't come back here." Samuel nodded once. "Thank you." Elias looked at Julie, then at the children, then at Samuel. "Keep them safe." By nightfall, they were 20 miles from Red Mesa, camped in a dry arroyo. Julie was shaking. Not from cold, from something deeper. She kept holding the baby too tight, whispering over and over, "They lied. They lied." Ethan sat still, eyes glassy. Samuel built no fire. He sat apart from them that night, feeling something press heavy in his chest. The man he killed, the calm in his voice, the way he called the baby property, it didn't come from greed alone. It came from orders, from systems too old to burn and too cruel to forget. Samuel had seen it before, and he'd walked away. But now he knew this was bigger than one attack, bigger than 5 men in fake badges. Julie came to him, baby still against her shoulder. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why do they want him?" Samuel looked at her, then the baby. "Because someone gave an order. Maybe about land. Maybe about blood. Maybe he was born to the wrong family in the wrong place." "He's mine," she said fiercely. "I nursed him. I named him. No one's taking him. I believe you. But it doesn't matter, does it?" Samuel didn't lie. "No, not to them." The baby stirred, let out a soft sound, and Julie hushed him. "I lied to you," she whispered. Samuel looked up. "About what?" "My husband," she said. "He didn't die of fever. He was killed. Shot in the back while we were crossing Nebraska. The baby isn't mine by birth. He belonged to a Lakota woman named Wagon. She died in childbirth when we sheltered in her camp that winter. The men who shot my husband came looking for her child. I told them he died in the cold." Samuel said nothing. Julie swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to lie. I was just scared you'd turn from me." "I wouldn't have." "You might have," she said. "People hear Lakota, and they don't think baby. They think burden. Or worse." Samuel looked at the child. So small, so unaware of what had already been lost in his name. "I'm not people," he said. "No," she whispered. "You're not." They rode again the next morning. Days passed under scorching sun and cold stars. The kids began to speak more. Ethan asked questions. The baby, whom Julie now called Tomas, laughed for the first time, soft and sudden, while Samuel was holding him. The laughter stopped 2 days later when they reached the pass above Carrion Ridge. Smoke again. Below, in the valley, another wagon burned. Samuel dropped to his belly, glassing the land with a small spyglass he carried. What he saw made his stomach lurch. 2 men on horseback. One was the same man from the general store in Red Mesa, the one who told Samuel about visitors. He now wore a star. The other, dressed in gray, with pale eyes and thin lips, stood near the body of a woman. Julie crouched beside him. "Do you know him?" Samuel nodded slowly. "That's Marshal Beckett Ransom." Julie's eyes widened. "He used to run government removals east of the Dakotas. Paid by head count. Didn't matter the age, only that the name matched the list." Her hand gripped tighter around Tomas. "He's following us. He's after us." Samuel looked at her. He doesn't want Tomas because he's a baby. He wants him because he's proof. Proof of what? That someone survived a purge they claimed was complete. Julie stared out at the smoke. Samuel said, "We can't run anymore. Not with him out here. So what do we do?" He looked at her. "We fight. You and me. We got 2 rifles. And you've got more steel in you than any man I've met." Julie's eyes shone, not from fear, from the fire that had never gone out. She looked down at Tomas, then back at Samuel. "Then let's finish it." They buried the woman from the valley at sunrise. No one said her name. Samuel didn't know it, and Julie wouldn't guess. The woman's body had been left out like garbage, half covered by a tarp, dirt in her hair, and a torn ribbon still tied to her wrist. Tomas clung to Julie's neck the whole time, silent but restless, sensing something was wrong. Ethan helped Samuel carry stones, his jaw set tight, not speaking. Afterward, they camped behind a ridge, out of view, keeping low. Julie hadn't spoken since the burial. She'd gone somewhere in her head, not lost exactly, but unreachable. Her eyes tracked every movement, every breeze. Her hands trembled at night, even when she tried to hide it. That was the beginning of the crack. Samuel noticed the change first in Ethan. The boy, once stiff but brave, had gone quiet. He didn't answer when called, didn't eat unless told. He wouldn't hold Tomas anymore, wouldn't look Julie in the eye. Samuel caught him once standing near the edge of a ravine, his fists clenched, jaw trembling. "You thinking of jumping?" Samuel asked quietly, coming up beside him. Ethan didn't answer. "You think it's the only way out?" Ethan turned then. "You said we were going to fight, but all we've done is run and hide and bury people. How's that fighting?" Samuel looked out over the land. "Fighting doesn't always look like what you think. Sometimes it means keeping people alive when the world's trying to erase them." Ethan stared hard at him. "Then I want to fight, not just hide." Samuel placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "There'll be a time." That night, Julie finally broke her silence. After the children had fallen asleep, she sat near the low fire Samuel had built between stones. "I can't sleep," she said. "Every time I close my eyes, I hear her. That woman. I see the way her body was twisted." Samuel said nothing. "I wonder if she knew she was going to die, if she was begging for someone to come, if she thought we were close by. You can't carry that." "I have to carry it," she said sharply. "No one else will. No one's writing any stories about her. No one's remembering her face. If I don't remember, then she just disappears. And that's what they want." Samuel looked at her. The firelight made her look older, carved from something ancient and exhausted. "I keep thinking I made a mistake," she whispered. "Taking Tomas. Keeping him. What if I just doomed him? You saved him. But for what? To run? To sleep on dirt? To watch people die in front of him? To grow up hunted?" Samuel didn't have an answer that would fix it. He could have said something soft, something hopeful, but it would have felt like lying. Instead, he said, "Sometimes surviving is the only rebellion left." Julie stared into the flames. "I don't want to just survive. I want to be free." "We're not far now," Samuel said. "There's a place west in the mountains. I know people. Quiet ones. No questions. If we can get there." "If," she repeated. "It's always if." He nodded. "Until we make it real." The next few days were heavier. They spoke less, rode longer. Ethan cried at night for his father, something he hadn't done before. Julie tried to soothe him, but Ethan pushed her away once, hitting his tiny fists into Julie's chest and yelling, "You lied. You said it would be okay." Julie didn't cry, but later, after Ethan fell asleep, she wandered off. Samuel found her kneeling in the dark, clutching the torn bonnet Tomas had worn that first day. Her shoulders shook, but no sound came out. "Why'd you come back for us?" she asked, voice raw. "You think I should have left you?" "I think you could have," she said. "And maybe your life would be better." Samuel sat next to her. "Maybe, but that life wouldn't have been worth much." She looked at him, and for a second, he thought she might say something else. But she only nodded and stood. 2 nights later, they were ambushed. It wasn't guns, not at first, just noise. Rocks rolling, branches breaking. Ethan shouted. Tomas started crying. Julie grabbed the children and dropped behind the wagon. Samuel fired blind into the trees, but the men weren't shooting. They were surrounding, hurting them. Samuel took one down. Fist to jaw, rifle butt to ribs. But he was outnumbered. One man grabbed Julie's arm, dragging her across the dirt. Ethan screamed. Tomas shrieked. Ethan picked up a stone and threw it, striking the man in the head, and got kicked for it. It ended fast. Too fast. Then the voice came. Cold. Measured. "Marshal Beckett Ransom. You've made this very difficult, Mr. Cade." Samuel stood, blood at his lip, heart thudding. "That your word for kidnapping children?" "Difficult." Beckett tilted his head. "The child doesn't belong to her. You know it. He's not listed under any legal name. No church registry. No birth certificate. He doesn't exist." Julie spat at his feet. "You don't get to say who belongs." Ransom smiled. "Don't I? The government thinks otherwise. There's a price on that child. Not for his head. For his silence." Samuel stepped forward. "You kill him, the truth dies with him. That No one wants him dead," Beckett said. "They want him gone. Quietly. Safely. Somewhere off the record. And you think I'll let that happen?" Beckett didn't answer. Just gestured to his men. They tied Samuel, tied Julie, dragged the children to the horses. Tomas wouldn't stop crying. As they were led north, Samuel watched the land fade. He didn't speak to Julie, didn't want the guards catching their words. But he caught her eye once, and it said everything. Not yet, but soon. They were held in an abandoned way station that night. Boards nailed across the windows. No fire. Julie rocked Tomas in her lap, tears streaking her face for the first time. "I thought we were close," she whispered. "I thought we had a chance." "We still do," Samuel said. She looked broken. "You can't keep saving us." "I'm not saving you," he said. "I'm staying with you." Later that night, Ethan crawled to Samuel's side. His voice was thin. "I took something." Samuel blinked. "What?" The boy held up a small rusted nail he'd palmed from the wagon floor. "Can you pick locks?" Samuel stared at him. "Maybe." They waited until the guard outside stepped off for a smoke. Samuel worked the nail into the cuff. It took longer than it should have. Blood ran down his wrist. But finally, the click. He freed Julie. Then Ethan. Julie whispered, "I'll take Tomas. You take the rifle." Outside, the horses were tied. 2 guards dozed by the fire. Samuel took one down before the man stood. Julie shoved the other. Ethan threw dirt into a third's face. It wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect. But they ran. Into the dark. Into the hills. Bullets followed, but none landed. They didn't stop until morning, collapsing in a ravine lined with scrub and thorns. Everyone was scraped, shaking, breathless. Julie sat with Tomas pressed tight to her, rocking again. "I don't know how much more we can take," she whispered. "We've got nothing left." Samuel sat beside her, wiped blood from his lip, and whispered back, "We still have each other." She didn't answer right away, but then she reached for his hand. And for a moment, just a moment, the pain broke. The sun rose red over the hills, bleeding light through the trees, as if the earth itself was warning them. Julie stood at the edge of the ravine. Tomas pressed against her shoulder, His tiny hand curled in her braid. Samuel had gone ahead with Ethan, scouting the old mining trail that led west through the gulch. For now, the world was still. But Julie knew peace didn't last out here. It waited just long enough for you to breathe, then it tore everything away. Samuel returned near noon. His clothes were streaked with dust, and his face was drawn. He didn't have to speak. Julie saw it in the way he moved. "They've found something. They've cut us off," he said quietly. "They've split up. 3 of them are waiting at the pass above Hunter's Hollow. Beckett's not with them." Julie stiffened. "Then where is he?" "I don't know. And that's the problem." They gathered what little they had. No more than a few strips of meat, half a canteen, and a single cartridge left in Samuel's rifle. The wagon was long gone, and the horses were too tired to carry all 4. They'd have to walk straight through the brush, keeping low, keeping quiet. But hours later, just before they reached the flat stretch leading to the hollow, Samuel stopped cold. There was smoke, not the thick black of a burning building, but the thin white of campfire. And someone was waiting. Samuel raised his hand, signaling Julie and the children to stay hidden in the rocks. He crept forward alone. Julie crouched beside Ethan, heart hammering. Tomas was fussing again, restlessly shifting in her arms. It didn't take long. Samuel returned, jaw locked. "It's Beckett," he said, "alone, sitting by the fire like he's waiting for an old friend." Julie stared. "It's a trap." "Of course it is." "Then we go around." Samuel hesitated. "He wants to talk." "Just me." "No," she snapped. "Absolutely not. He's luring you." "I know," he said, "but he's not stupid. He knows if he kills me without getting what he wants, he loses." Julie's eyes narrowed. "You think you can reason with that man?" "I think I can stall him." Before she could argue more, he added, "Keep the kids low. If I'm out back in 15 minutes, take the west trail. Head toward the pines. Don't stop for anything." She stared at him, jaw trembling. "Don't make me bury you." Samuel looked at her. "I'm not planning to." Then he left. The fire crackled when he stepped into the clearing. Beckett didn't move, just looked up and smiled. "Didn't think you'd come," he said. "Most men wouldn't." Samuel kept a careful distance. "I'm not most men." "No, I figure that much." There was a long silence. The wind whispered through the trees. Somewhere a hawk cried out. "You've caused quite a bit of trouble," Beckett said eventually. "Could have been easy, you know. You could have walked away from that wagon. Let the child go. He would have disappeared into the system. Quiet. Simple." "I've seen your kind of simple," Samuel said. "It always ends in graves." Beckett chuckled, soft and low. "You're not wrong." Another pause. Then Beckett looked up, and the smile faded. "You don't know the full story, Cade. That baby, he isn't just any child. He's the grandson of Standing Rain." Samuel frowned. "And who told you that?" Beckett's face changed. Not smug, not cruel, just calm. "Your sister." The world spun a little. Samuel stared. "What?" Beckett leaned forward. "She's the one who sent the letter. She didn't know what it would lead to. But she heard rumors that a Lakota elder had a daughter who gave birth in a white woman's wagon. That the baby was mixed blood, and the white woman ran with him. Your sister works with the Federal Commission in Kansas City now. Paperwork. Names. She flagged it. And I took it from there." Samuel couldn't move. "Your sister never meant for violence," Beckett added. "She just followed protocol. But she's the reason I'm here." Samuel felt the world shift under him. He hadn't spoken to Joanna in 5 years. Not since the war. Not since he left home and never looked back. Beckett stood slowly. "So you see, this wasn't about cruelty. It was about order. That child is a political matchstick. If the wrong people find out who he really is, half the territory will go up in flames." "He's a baby," Samuel said quietly. "He's a symbol," Beckett snapped. "And symbols are dangerous." Samuel's voice darkened. "And what about Julie? Ethan? What are they?" "Collateral," Beckett said. Samuel didn't think. His fist was already swinging before the man had finished the word. The 2 men slammed into each other like rocks in a storm. Beckett was older, but stronger than he looked. Samuel took a hit to the gut, another to the side of the head. They tumbled through dirt and dry brush, fists flying, blood, dust, bark peeling from trees as they stumbled into them. Samuel grabbed a branch, swung it hard, struck Beckett's knee. The man roared and dropped. Samuel stood, panting. Beckett spat blood. "You're wasting your breath. Even if you kill me, someone else will come." Samuel wiped his face. "Let them." And then he turned, walking away. Beckett didn't follow. Not then. He returned to Julie limping, bleeding, silent. She didn't ask what happened. But later that night, after they'd moved deeper into the hills, she spoke. "Your sister?" He nodded once. She didn't know. Not really. Julie looked hollowed. "Feels like the whole world's made of betrayal." Samuel looked at the fire. Not the whole world. She sat beside him, Tomas cradled in one arm. "I thought you were dead," she said. "When you didn't come back." "I almost was." She brushed his shoulder gently. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't. I already lost my husband. My land. My name. I can't lose you too." Samuel looked at her, then at the children. He placed his hand over hers. "You won't." That night, they didn't sleep much. Not because of fear, but because of what was coming. They were past hiding now, and the next move was theirs. The first snow came earlier than they expected. Just a fine dusting across the pine needles at first, like the earth was sighing in relief after too many dry months. The trail that wound west through the timberline narrowed, and the horses struggled on the incline. But Julie never once asked to stop. Not when Ethan's shoes split at the toe, not when Tomas grew feverish from the cold, not when Samuel's limp got worse with every mile. They all kept moving. It had been a week since the fight with Beckett. They hadn't seen another rider since. No signs, no smoke, no bullet holes in trees. It didn't mean the danger was gone, just hiding, perhaps watching. But Samuel could feel something different in the air now. A shift, a thinning of the weight they'd carried. The mountain pass had taken nearly everything from them, but it had also stripped away fear. What was left now was simple, sharp survival, and maybe something better beyond it. They reached the edge of the valley just after midday. From there, Julie could see it. A scatter of cabins tucked beneath tall trees, smoke drifting soft from chimneys, a fenced-in pasture where goats moved slowly under the clouds. It was quiet, remote, a place no map advertised and no army scouted. Samuel had called it shelter, not in the poetic sense, just because that's what it was. Julie didn't speak for a while. She stared down at the valley, eyes wet, but no tears fell. Ethan stirred beside her and whispered, "Is this it?" Julie nodded, and Ethan said, "It doesn't look like much." Samuel smiled. "That's how you know it's real." They came down the slope slowly. By the time they reached the outer cabin, a tall man with graying hair and a rifle over his shoulder stepped out. He looked at Samuel, then at Julie, then down at the children. He didn't ask questions, just nodded once and said, "We'll put you in the east cabin. Fire's already going." Inside, the warmth hit them like a wall. Tomas cried from the sudden change, then laughed, really laughed, when Julie took off his bonnet and kissed his cheek. Ethan collapsed into a pile of blankets without speaking. They stayed there through winter. At first, it was just recovery, learning how to sleep again without fearing what would wake them. Then, slowly, it became something else. Ethan learned how to fish from the creek, standing knee-deep in freezing water and pulling in trout with fingers too quick for his age. Tomas got stronger. He stopped crying at shadows. He started walking, slowly, then fast, always towards Samuel first. And Julie began to sing again. Not loudly, not often, but sometimes in the mornings, Samuel would hear her humming while sweeping snow from the porch or feeding the goats. It was a sound that made the walls feel warmer. They never spoke of Beckett again, or of the men who burned her wagon, or of the ones who left that woman in the dirt with no name. Some ghosts weren't worth retelling, and yet, the weight of it all lived inside them still, stitched into every kindness, every quiet choice, Every time Julie gripped Samuel's hand when she thought he might pull away. One morning, when the snow had just begun to melt into soft mud, a letter came. It was rare getting mail in shelter. It came through 2 hands and 3 months late. But Samuel recognized the writing. Joanna. He opened it outside alone. The letter was short. Sam, I didn't know what they'd do. I thought it was routine, a name in a ledger, a child without records. I passed it on like I've done 100 times. I only learned the truth after the first man was sent. I tried to stop it. I couldn't. I'm sorry. I hope you're safe. I hope she is too. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed you to know. Love, Joe. He read it twice, then folded it, tucked it away. Later that night, when Julie sat beside the fire, brushing Tomas's hair with a carved wooden comb, Samuel handed her the letter. She read it silently. When she was done, she didn't speak, just passed it back and rested her hand on Samuel's knee. They both understood what it meant. The past might never fully be behind them, but it didn't have to control them anymore. Spring brought color back to the land. Wildflowers cracked through the mud, bees buzzed through the pines, and for the first time in years, they weren't running. They planted carrots and beans. Samuel helped build a new cabin for a woman arriving from the north with 3 children and a bruised face. Julie held the woman's hand during the worst of the night tremors and never let go. Justice, as the world understood it, never came. No court heard Julie's story. No one imprisoned the men who burned her wagon or chased them through the hills. But some justice comes in smaller forms, in safe sleep, in shared meals, in watching your children laugh and grow strong under a sky that no longer feels like a threat. One afternoon, Ethan asked Julie if Tomas would ever know what happened. If they'd tell him. Julie didn't answer right away. Then she said, "We'll tell him the truth." "Well, he's ready." Ethan nodded. "Can I be the one to tell him?" He smiled when he saw snow. Julie smiled. "Yes, sweet boy, you can." The story didn't end with fire or revenge. It ended with dirt under fingernails, with seeds pushed into the ground, with Tomas stumbling over his own feet as he learned to run, chasing a goat across the field while Ethan laughed so hard he dropped his shovel. It ended in peace. But more importantly, it ended in presence, a choice to stay, to build, to belong again. Because in a world that so often tried to erase what didn't fit its lines, there was no greater victory than surviving together. And maybe that's all justice really is, refusing to disappear.